Hello, welcome back for yet another episode of the Accelerate Your Life podcast. Excited to have you guys here. And can I just say, I cannot freaking believe that it is April already. Like this year is flying by. Although I feel like it's always like that. I mean, how often are you like, oh, this year is just dragging? I mean, maybe sometimes, but I don't know. I just feel like life is always freaking flying by. But with that being said, it is April 3rd when I'm recording this. We are hopping right into Q2. And so I thought it would be fun to do a little Q1 check-in with each other, with myself, do a little review of how my Q1 was. Obviously, a podcast is just a one-way street of me talking, but I do want to say that my DMs are always open. I would love to chat with you guys. And I think that this episode, even though it's going to be a lot of me kind of talking about my Q1, it serves as a little bit of like an accountability checkpoint for you too. If I want you to like sit and check in with yourself about how your first 3 months of the year are and how are you doing on some of the things that you set intentions for at the beginning of the year. And I'm not a big, like, I did a episode on New Year's goals and all that. I'm not a huge like goal person. Here's the thing. And I said this in that episode. I think like the turn of the year is a great reason to start thinking about your goals, but I hate that just people often let go of them after January, after February. So I think having this little check-in every even 3 months, every quarter, just seeing like, how did I do on the goals I set prior? And then what do I want? What are my intentions going into the next few months? It just is a much more tangible, like breaking it down into smaller time frames and reminding yourself that you don't just have to wait till January 1st to set goals and all of that. So check in with yourself, see how you're doing on some of the intentions you have. New intentions do you want to set? What things do you want to still work on? And after listening to this episode, I would love for you to DM me and talk to me about what you took away from this and what it made you think about and what your intentions are for Q2. So a little bit of accountability. I am definitely expecting to see some of you guys slide into my DMs. Okay. But yeah, just thought it would be fun, selfishly for myself too, to just kind of reflect. So that's what this episode's going to be. And when I was kind of thinking about, obviously I did a little bit of reflection while prepping for this episode. Again, I don't typically really prep for these, so a lot of this is just gonna be off the cuff, but I was kind of thinking about like, if I'm reflecting on any period of time, what are like the big buckets that I'm kind of looking at and categories that I guess come to mind, right? My main categories in life. And I kind of found 5 buckets that I just think are important to me, bring me happiness in life. I set all of my goals within these buckets. And those are number one, friendships. Number two, relationships and dating, which I'm excited to, I haven't really talked about that much on this podcast. A lot of you guys probably know because you follow me on Instagram. I am so painfully single. Sometimes, but navigating the dating world in this day and age and like at my age, I just think so many of us are kind of going through it and it's like not easy. So I've wanted to talk about it, but I also feel a little bit weird and taboo talking about it. So I think all that to say, I think this episode's going to be a really good like little dip my toe in the water and kind of share my personal dating stuff that's going on with you guys, see what more you would want to know, and we can go from there. But anyway, that's definitely a bucket. Health, fitness, wellness, that's definitely a bucket. Travel has been a big new kind of bucket for me that I wanted going into 2024. And then, of course, like work and success in that realm are kind of like the 5 that I narrowed it down. You do not have to have the same buckets, let me tell you that. But when reflecting on this quarter or your year or just in general, like reflecting on life and setting new goals, I do think narrowing it down, like what are your primary inputs in life? What are the things that you want to focus on that bring you the most fulfillment that you want to improve in, like what areas? That's a really good way to then it makes it a little bit easier to like set those goals and also review how am I doing in life, right? Because if we're just arbitrarily like how am I doing in life with no rubric, I guess. The buckets can even kind of serve as a rubric. It can feel really overwhelming. It can be really easy to like be even negative on yourself or not know how to like measure, am I happy or doing what I want? So like narrowing it kind of down to these categories to look at, are you fulfilled? What are your categories that you want to be fulfilled in? So yeah, we'll kind of look a little bit for myself into those 5 buckets, but after I think what's cool about this little recap too is yes, it's quote like I'm quote unquote doing like a Q1 wrapped Q1 update, but I also haven't really done a huge update since like an overall update since moving to Austin. I have now been in Austin for basically 9 months. So some of this is was me reflecting on the entire 9 months, but also specifically some goals in the last three. But I say that because I do feel like the biggest part of me moving to Austin, if we're going to start with talking about like the friendship bucket, like that was the biggest part with me moving. And that immediately improved when I got here. But I really do feel like the last 3 months in quarter one, I've been able to get like a lot deeper with some of these friendships too, which is now become my priority. I do think that this bucket and like reflecting on Q1 is full as fuck, which like makes me so happy to say. Because that was really, really what I was missing in my life prior to this, was just feeling like I had a like, it's not even larger amount of friends because I'm very much a quality over quantity person, but I just like didn't feel like I had a group or like a little friend family, if you so will, back when I lived in North Carolina. And so being able to say that this bucket is really full is great. But I will say one thing that while I have found a family and lots of friends, that is where kind of that quantity, or yeah, quantity over quality, you begin to question like, well, is it the numbers or do I care more about the quality? Because I did have like, and I do still have, I mean, my best friend Rachel at home in Charlotte, and like she is my best friend who like, I'm crying, if I'm like whatever, I go to her. I know she's always there, but it's hard because she's not physically here now. And so I've like really wanted to find that person. And I do think that's kind of the last piece where like, yes, my bucket's so full, but I think in Q1, I did kind of have some moments where I realized, shit, like who do I call right now when I'm upset, when I'm emotional, when I just need to be with someone? Because obviously I could still call Rachel, but when I just need to like physically be with someone. And that's not just to like slight any of my friends here. I think that that just obviously takes time to build. Me and Rachel have been friends since we were in fifth grade. So like finding that sort of foundation and relationship is just, it's not even about finding it, it's about building it, I think, and just taking time. So that's definitely something I want to continue to like work on in quarter two. But I have amazing friends here who I know are going to continue to like show up to be those people. And in fact, I think a lot of them are going to build into that, and I'm going to have both quantity and quality of those. So I don't know, I don't have a lot to even say on the friendship side of things other than that. Like I'm just really happy with the connections I'm building. I feel like I always have something to do if I want to, people to spend it with. It's just great having quality time with a lot of people I surround myself with. And it's the first time in like my life where I just am like, I know how to look for people who I feel good when leaving. And if maybe this is a bucket that you're kind of looking at too, and like something I would just consider whenever you're thinking about who to give your energy to and building friendships and even relationships and dating too, is how do you feel when you're with these people and when you leave these people? And you should be feeling recharged. You should be feeling um like on a high after being with people that you love and being with people that you want to hang with, and not drained, right? That's not to say you don't need a night in and kind of recharge your own battery, but like you shouldn't feel like energetically drained, I think. And I have just found such amazing people where I do not feel that way when I leave them. So that bucket has been fantastic in Q1. Next bucket, I'm gonna save. I'm going out of order. Okay, I'm gonna save relationships and dating for last. But next bucket for me and like part of Q2, big part of Q2 for me was travel. This is something that not that I haven't done, like I definitely have like go on trips. I usually go on like maybe one, maybe two big trips per year, but I have not done a lot of like little things like, oh, let me just go visit my friend that lives here, or hey, I can just go to the beach for these 2 days, or hey, whatever. And like that's definitely a luxury. I will preface all of this by saying not everybody can do that anyway. But the thing with my job is that I have built and created something where I have the ability to work from anywhere. And I have just noticed myself saying no to a lot of opportunities and trips and holding back for a couple reasons. But I think the biggest ones being like just rigidity of my own structure and schedule, and not wanting to, not be in control of when I work out and what I'm eating, and mainly work, like, oh, this is going to knock me out of my routine, and what if I can't get this done and whatever. Um and that's something I really, really wanted to work on going into 2024. Like that was a big goal for me. And I'm proud to say that I went on two little trips already that were quote unquote work trips. Like I went on these trips with the intention of time is still going to be spent working. It's just going to be in a different location. And maybe I just work an hour or two less that day and then go do like fun things with whatever I was doing or visit whoever I was visiting. And this is just not something I've done before. Cause again, I was like, I don't know. I just don't trust myself to work. I'll be out of routine. But I did end up going to Boston for like 3 days in the beginning of March to visit my good friend Chris, who lives there. And then Rachel, my best friend from Charlotte, actually was going for work. So I was like, perfect, I'll go see both of them. And it was awesome. Like that was the first one that I was like, okay, me and Chris sat and worked for like 6 hours in a coffee shop one day. Like it was just like work from a different place. And I'm like, I need to freaking take advantage of that. Right. Um, and then the other trip was actually like 3 weeks later. I went to Utah with my friend Casey to ski. And she is also in like the position I am where we own our own businesses. We can have that flexibility. So it was really easy for us to be like, okay, we're going to spend a few hours in the morning working in coffee shops. Then we're going to go ski. Then we're going to work a little more. And it was perfect. And like both of these, I think my biggest takeaways were just like, okay, you can let go, Mallory. Like it's okay to not be in your perfect little routine where you wake up and do the same thing over and over. Like, not that there's anything wrong with routine. I love routine and I will never change that. But it's okay to knock out of it sometimes. And like it definitely was uncomfortable for me, but I am very proud of myself. And both of these I will say too were pretty spontaneous. I'm using air quotes because I did book them ahead of time, but I have notoriously been the person who like I will look at flights forever. I'm like second guessing, well, if I fly out this time, then this and this, and I will like never freaking book anything, and it's overwhelming. And both of these trips, when like it came up with Boston for like with Chris going to Boston, then when it came up with Casey for skiing, I was like, all right, let's do it. And I had my flight booked that day, like the second that these came up. So proud of myself for that, truly. So that was a little Q1 like win for me as far as travel. And I have some exciting travel coming up as well in Q2. I'm going to Europe at the end of May for 11 days with 3 girlfriends. That's going to be quite a test because I don't know how work travel it's going to be. I think it's just going to be a lot of travel. I haven't taken that long off of the company ever. I think my longest stint of like true time off was like 4 days. So this will be interesting. It'll be a Q2 challenge for me, but we will see how that goes. And then, okay, what else? So other things that happened in quarter 1. Obviously health and fitness. That's a place we have to explore. If you did not listen to my hormone episode, I think it's 2 or 3 episodes back. Definitely go back and listen to that one because that really summarizes not only what I've been dealing with in quarter 1, but just like the last freaking 2, 3 years. I will say, I feel like the most progress that in the last 3 years has been made in this past Q1. So that is very exciting. I mentioned this on the podcast, but I did start hormone replacement therapy. I'm really happy with how this is going. Update since that podcast on this. I did re-get my blood work done and it looks like things have really improved. My progesterone is up a lot. My testosterone is up a lot, which both those things I had extremely low. Now the only thing that's really low is my estrogen. And we started a supplement called Primrose Oil to hopefully help bring that up. I need to just be more consistent with taking it. And we're hoping that I should have a cycle in the next like 4 to 6 weeks. So everybody like please cross your fingers for me. So that's really the biggest thing that's going on in the health and fitness and like update for Q1 and going into Q2. Just focusing on hormones is the primary thing. I was going to try to do my first little cut in almost 3 years, and I told Instagram that I was doing this and I was going to be so good at tracking my macros, but, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I do, after talking to my practitioner, we've decided that that's probably not the best route. And with the just priority of getting my cycle back, I'm actually going to do a slight reverse diet. So actually quite the opposite of a cut. I'm going to slightly begin to increase my calories. We've kind of looked at things and I am just so active here in Austin, which is awesome. But like I'm training 4 times a week and then I've picked up pickleball. I've picked up volleyball. I picked up golf with friends. Like it's just more social active. I go on a lot of walks with my friends. None of these things I'm like intentionally doing to like burn calories or exercise or work out. This is just such an active place. And that is how we all like to spend our time and spend time with each other. So I'm just constantly active. And I think that what's happening is I'm just honestly not even eating enough for my activity level. And so my body is just in a place where it doesn't really want to lose weight either because it's like hanging on and a little bit stressed from that regard. And so we want to feed it up a little bit more and give it kind of what it needs to sustain all of this activity. And I think we're going to be really happy with what we see. So this week I am actually just trying to be diligent with tracking. And then next week I'm going to start increasing from like where I'm at now. So that's kind of the update. Honestly, all in all, just in my health and fitness in general, reflecting on quarter 1 and the travel I did have and being out of my routine, and just honestly, since moving to Austin in general, I have really pretty much maintained my weight. I've gained about 1 pound since I think I moved here, which is in my eyes nothing. Like I've maintained my weight, which I'm so happy with because I'm eating out way more than I ever did in North Carolina just because of the social aspect, and there's so many places to eat here. But obviously I'm moving a lot more too. So it makes it, makes a difference. So that's a little health and fitness wrap. And then on the work side of things, so honestly, this has been going great. I feel like with Accelerate Athletics, we have the best team that we've ever had. I just love everyone who's part of the staff right now. We all just like click together so well. I feel like the energy is so great, which is like just makes such a difference in your day to day when you love the people you work with, you love coming to work every day. You're fulfilled by what you do. So I hope some of you guys are taking some time to reflect on like how you spend 40 plus hours of your week like impacts you energetically. I'm just really happy that right now it's gotten to a place where it definitely adds to my life. I went through periods where I just to be straight up honest, it was draining the fuck out of me. If you didn't listen to the shameless plug for another podcast episode, how I built this episode, you definitely should tune into that one too. It's all about how I built the business, and you will hear about how I went through periods where it definitely drained the hell out of me. And so one thing I will say is even if you're in a period like right now in your life as you're reflecting here where you don't love what you do, that's okay. I'm not saying just like quit that, because sometimes it takes going through those seasons, but just think about like what's my end goal? And even if I'm not feeling the best right now, am I on a track that's going to get me to where I feel the best, or is there really no upward mobility? Is there really no like place where I see this going that's going to make me happy? That's where I would potentially sit and think about some things. But anyway, I do feel like I have the best work-life balance I've ever had, really starting in this past quarter, in the past 3 months. Up until January, I had began to like find a lot of balance within Accelerate Athletics, but I also had actually taken a business coaching role where I was working as a business coach. And it just was adding a lot to my plate and not necessarily filling my cup in a way that I thought it would. And so I think like removing that, I've now just really, really found a place where I am working a lot, but I love it. And then I also still have time to unplug and go do things I love, hang out with my friends, etc. I struggled to learn that balance for a long time. So I definitely would recommend finding that, checking in with yourself and making sure you're finding the balance of having success versus also enjoying it. Because this is the first quarter where I really feel like I've realize what it means to enjoy the fruits of your labor. For so long, I was like, labor, labor, labor. There are no fruits. I don't know what they taste like. Or I would just like forget to freaking pick the apple off the tree and eat it. Like, no, we are climbing this hill. Don't forget to look and actually enjoy the view for what you're doing. Okay. Okay. I feel like I'm rambling so much. And let me know what you guys think about this podcast episode too, because I feel like it's kind of like me, which I don't love. So that's why I want to make sure you guys are sliding into my DMs and giving me the you about what you learned from your Q2 as well. But last but not least, the relationships and dating category of the last 3 months, last year. Okay, I will say I don't know what I'm gonna actually end up doing with this at the end of the year, but I am keeping notes on dates I go on, people I meet, to do a little maybe 2024 wrapped for you guys at the end of the year. Okay. So I'll give you a little preview right now. We'll do a little Q1 wrapped of what we have seen so far in the dating world. I have been on 7 first dates, and I think I'm doing pretty well with that, to be honest, because energetically, I have learned for myself, I can really probably only do a first date every 2 weeks at most, which honestly is still pushing it. Um, but that puts me right on schedule because I think so there's 12 weeks, essentially 12 to 14 weeks, but like let's just say each month has 4 weeks. In quarter 1, I've been on 7 dates. So that would be even more than every other week. So go me. Okay. Um, None of them have went anywhere, so we'll just, leave it at that. But I'm trying, okay? Nobody can freaking say I'm not trying. I most of these, I think 5 of the 7 came from apps. So that's why obviously it's easy to like find first dates when you're just on dating apps. But look, I know everybody says this, but I really, really just like don't think the apps work for me. Um, I just like okay, here's why. Because so there's 5 from the apps, and then there was 2 from non-apps, like actually in the wild, right? And to no surprise, those 2 were the ones that actually did go the furthest and had the most potential, and I like went on the most follow-up dates with, right? And I think like what this shows, and I've always known this about myself, and again, I know everyone probably says this is just truly the reality, but I have a really hard time wanting to energetically put time into somebody when I have like no rapport, and when I'm also just when you're like straight up going into something being like, are we going to like each other romantically? Versus when you meet someone in person organically, it's first like, "Okay, hi," like, I'm introducing yourself, like, you meet, you maybe talk a little bit, and then you're like, "Oh, I now I do find you interest like, I am potentially interested in you, now let's explore this." But, like, from an app, you're just like, we are showing up to see, do we like each other romantically, rather than, like, organically kind of transpiring to that, and I just feel like for me, there's too much pressure, and I'm not gonna know that I like you romantically from date 1, and then I have date 1, and I'm like, "Well, I don't like you romantically yet, obviously, because I don't know you, but then I'm like, "Well, I don't, so why would we go on a date too?" I don't know. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. Let me know. I would love some tips on maybe how to do app dates. My my ex, we did meet on Hinge, so I know it works. We did it for a year. I know it works, but it's just not right now. So there's that. But yeah, so none of those worked out. I will say the 2 that were organic, again, like I said, they went the furthest, but they did both end up kind of like we just decided that we'll just be friends, or there just like wasn't anything there in the long run. But I just like the rapport that you already have, and like it's so much easier to build off of that. So there is that. But like I kind of said at the beginning, I honestly do want to do more dating content, especially on the podcast, because it's freaking hard. Like it is really, really hard dating in 2024 with all the apps we have and the whole like hookup culture and everybody being so non-committal and like all the options. It is so freaking hard. And so I feel like talking about it could really help people. Maybe you guys can give me advice too, but I definitely worry that like what if potential people that I would go on a date with like end up seeing it and they don't want to be talked about, or they think it's weird that I'm talking about it, or they listen and get and like make assumptions or feel like they know me before they actually do. That's definitely just like my worry with it. But it is, yeah, it is something I would love to talk about more. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want to hear about it more, and I will give the people what they want. But I do think, and this has been the case for the last probably like 6 months, um, this relationship bucket is just an aspect of my life for the first time where I really feel like it'll just simply add so much, but I don't need it. And I feel like that's why I want it even more, is because I don't need it. Like this is like truly the happiest I've ever been in my life, not to sound cheesy, but work is great, friends are great. I love where I live. I love my day to day. And I'm like all of those things without a partner. But I just think it would be really awesome to share all of that with a partner, right? And like to have to meet somebody who also loves their life without a partner and has all these things that they love in their day to day. And I want to see that. I want to like get to be part of that, and I want them to be part of mine, you know? So anyway, I just that's kind of where I am. We will see where Q2 leads us, but if you are single and frustrated and also looking too, because I got you, just remember a few things. I'm no expert, but this is just what I always remind myself. Number one, we are only looking for one. It can feel so discouraging sometimes because it's just like, why can't I find someone? But that's the thing. We're only looking for one. So that means it's going to be freaking hard and take time, because not everyone is your person. Like we're looking for a needle in a haystack. And so it's going to take time to find that needle, you know? And then the big thing that I always really do remind myself, and one of my friends reminded me of this the other day, is that this is potentially the last time that we will ever be single with no partner, no kids. You get to do whatever you want whenever you want. Your, financial situation is only your own. You have all the freedom. Like this is potentially like your next relationship. You could go on a first date tomorrow and that end up being your husband in a little bit of time. And so this could be the last day that you're literally all that. So enjoy it. Like take full advantage of it. And that's definitely what I'm leaning into. So that's my take on that bucket for Q1. I will keep you guys updated. We'll do a wrap at the end of the year. Although I feel like, can you do a wrap if you end up in a relationship? My goal would be to not have to do a wrap then. But we'll say at this rate, who knows? But yeah, that's kind of my little Q1 wrap for you guys. Upcoming things in Q2 that you'll hear about when we do our Q2 wrapped. I do have, like I mentioned, two big trips coming up. The Europe trip, and then I didn't say this one, but I'm going to Electric Forest, which is a 4-day music festival in Michigan. It's like full on camping. I have never camped before or went to a multi-day music festival. I am so nervous. This is like the epitome of pushing myself out of my comfort zone with travel. So that'll be an interesting one. And then another goal I think I just have going into quarter 2 is because quarter 2, it's not technically summer, but in Austin, it's going to be like, that's going to be the quote unquote summer months because like summer is just too hot to do anything. And I've been thinking about this. I want to live summer like when we were a kid, which what I mean by that is, you're out of school when you're a kid. It's like every day is a holiday. You're just kind of going with the flow. You're up late. You're really enjoying like the summer nights. You don't feel this rush to get to bed, all of that. And it gets hard when you're an adult because it's still normal life, right? Like our 9 to 5 jobs or whatever still go on, even though it's summer. So obviously there's parts of that you can't do, but I don't want to be so rigid in my routine. I want to be a little bit more okay with like, not necessarily being home at 7:30 to eat my Ninja Creamy. And instead it's okay if I'm out like playing volleyball late or something because it's nice out and it's beautiful out and it's a summer night, right? Um, and to just like live a little bit more like a freedom, that freedom. That's what I associate when I think of summer. So I don't necessarily have tangibles of exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I'm going to think about it. And that is a Q2 goal for me. So think about what some Q2 goals are for you. Drop them in my inbox. Would love to hear about them. And I'm just wishing you guys such a great Q2, whether it's just in work, other goals you have. Let's freaking crush it. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.